In this talk, we have the honor to count with Dr. Vincenzo Carbone. Dr. Carbone holds a PhD in biomechanical engineering from the University of Twente, the Netherlands, and he is currently a senior product manager of research and development and medical technologies at InSilicoTrials Technologies company. The main aim of this company is to accelerate the development of drugs and medical devices, taking advantage of computational modeling and artificial intelligence by providing cloud-based platform technological solutions. More concretely, Dr. Carbone is focused on the use of computational solutions for the development and regulatory evaluation of new medical devices and personalized surgical techniques. Next, he will give us more insights about that in his talk titled Bridging the Science Practice Gap in Healthcare with the Cloud-based InSilicoTrials Platform. Thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction invitation. Unfortunately, I cannot be present there in Barcelona. I think you are fully enjoying the weather. Also, I've read about some water activities by the Disc for All researchers and members, so lucky you. So moving on with the talk. So what I will talk today is give you a brief introduction of the InSilicoTrials platform and what we are building together with the research community and the technology community. And also I will focus on the three aspects that makes the InSilicoTrials platform unique. That is the pillars that we leverage with our collaboration with science, with regulatory and technology to merge and make a synergy of all the know-how. And then some example of the solutions we have integrated on our platform and some success case used by the industry. First of all, a brief introduction about me. So the reason I'm here today is that I have 15 years long interest, passion about in silico medicine that is started during my Master of Science study. I studied mathematical modeling engineering in Politecnico di Torino in Italy. And here you can see a very prehistoric multi-phase modeling of tumor growth in islet or Langerhans in pancreas. That was my master thesis. Next level, as you mentioned, then I obtained a PhD in biomechanical engineering at the University of Twente, working on the personalized lower extremity modeling. Here, it was obviously a step further, higher compared to the master thesis. So the combination of mathematical modeling, finite element modeling, segmentation of images, and functional measurements. And after that, I joined InSilicoTrials, where now I work on the evaluation integration of computational solutions into cloud-based, easy-to-use tools to be used by industry, but also researchers and clinicians. So what is InSilicoTrials? Now I take the occasion to show you a quick video that with images will give a clear idea of what is our vision and what we are building, and then I'll be back.
Every 5 seconds, someone is dying prematurely from diseases where treatment has not yet been discovered. Despite numerous advancements in the life science industry, cancer alone is responsible for millions of deaths every year, with the WHO reporting over 10 million deaths in 2020. These numbers can be drastically reduced with the ongoing development of new medicines. But as it stands, successfully developing a single new drug or medical device takes around a decade and requires billions of dollars. InSilicoTrials brings a transition to the future of drug development with online solutions that can reduce the cost and time of taking a new drug through clinical trials. At InSilicoTrials, we've developed a vertical software solution where computational simulation and AI tools are utilized to facilitate drug development in every step, covering the whole process from non-clinical to clinical trials. The computational models used by InSilicoTrials are developed with internationally recognized research centers and universities and aim to improve drugs and medical devices safety, significantly cut R&D costs and time, getting more drugs to patients faster, reduce, refine, and replace in vitro, animals, and human testing. We are currently entering the personalized medicine era. In the future, this tailored approach will increase the number of drugs to a point where potentially each patient will have his or her own personalized treatment. InSilicoTrials will enable this revolution thanks to its user-friendly computational modeling and simulation environment, providing integrated, vertical, and easy-to-use in silico, non-clinical, and clinical solutions. We are ready for the future of medicine. Are you?
So how it starts everything? Everything started with the identification of a problem. So it's well known that the development of new products, new drugs, new medical devices is challenging in terms of cost. On average, the investment required to develop a new drug to bring it to the market is more than $2.5 billion. Also, the time required. Again, the average time required to bring a new drug on the market is 12 years. And there is a very high percentage of failures of a number of molecules, new drugs, so medical devices, that they do not reach the market because for some problems which are issues and comes during all the testing clinical trial phases. It's also well known that modeling simulation and artificial intelligence represent a great opportunity to accelerate time and reduce cost for the design and development of new medical products, since the simulation can allow you to predict and avoid failure cases and problems that could be a barrier to the reach of the target, and so to bring also new products to the patients. But also the development of computational solutions is a challenge, since many resources are required, different kind of resources. For example, money is needed to create a setup and obtain a credible computational solution. Time is required also for you can imagine, as you all know, about the time to create the coding, debugging. Also, specific expertise is required about computational medicine. There is not this specific expertise most of the time is not present in the medium or small size medical device or pharma company. Also, for the very important activity of verification and validation that was just mentioned, also, these require data, access to the data, and also this is a resource that is not always available to industry, so to a medical device or drug company that want to use these resources. So far, the development and use of computational solutions usually is associated to big industry that have resources for internal development of such solutions, or the request for outsourcing consultancy at the university and the research centers. And so there is a gap that the small and medium companies, enterprise cannot have easy access to these solutions. That's why InSilicoTrials is born. So our mission is to bring a revolution to the development of new drugs and medical devices, leveraging the silico technology and the power of computational simulations and artificial intelligence. And this is we do this by creating a large network collaboration with our scientific partners that we allow them to exploit and commercialize, monetize the computational solutions they have created, tested, and validated in the past years, and also allowing democratized access to all the user, potential user that want to access this technology in order to test their new devices, test their new drugs, or optimize the feature of a new product, and so to assess the safety and optimizing the performance of these new products. So the InSilicoTrials Platform represents a hub that connects all our scientific partners. We have more than 70 university and scientific partners which provide their computational solutions, and we integrate them in our platform, and we make these solutions available to customers. They can be pharma companies, biotech, medical device companies, or clinical research organizations which are involved in the clinical trials and the assessment of new products. And to do this, we have to offer solutions which are obviously accessible and reliable, that can be used, reused, and then also leverage into all the process of the development and then acceptation of new products. So since our goal is to democratize the modeling and simulation in healthcare, we have decided from the beginning to leverage the synergy between three main pillars, which is science, technology, and regulation, and to merge and leverage these three know-hows. So let's start from science. As mentioned, all the solutions which are available today on our platform that we offer on our customers are the results of the long and hard work of all the researchers all around the world. So we have more than 70 university research centers worldwide, which have with which we have agreement, and they provide the computational result to make them available in a protected way, so maintaining the control on the results of their work and make them available to use by the healthcare industry. How the selection process, the acquisition and integration process works. So we start from seeing what the market requires. So the industry, pharma or medical device industry. We usually receive requests from our customers, and together with them, we help them to identify which is the specific need that they have. And so we define the so-called question of interest and what is the computational solution that could be used to answer this question of interest, and also which way this computational solution is going to be used, so defining a context of use. And also together to assess which are all the resources, like the data, that will need to fulfill this question of interest. Once then we from the pool of our scientific researcher, if there is a computational solution that was not already identified in the past, a new solution is identified, and so then we set up all the system for the easy simulation setup and running in order to provide the simulation results to the user. And how we choose, how we prioritize the model computational solution to be integrated in our platform. We have several criteria, like the source reputation, so the university and research group or the professor which are involved in the creation of this solution. If this solution is being published on a peer-reviewed paper, and so has also received review from the rest of the scientific community. What is the status, the level of verification and validation? This is a really important point. Again, was mentioned before, since the assessment of the credibility of the computational solution also bring as an effect, as a big important then in the possibility to provide the results, computational results, to regulatory and for the evaluation and assessment of these computational results. And also very important, we see if the computational solution reproduce an accepted standard test. It could be bench testing on other kind of standard test accepted by regulatory bodies, or they reproduce or integrate specific requirement by the regulatory bodies. And so doing this, we have been able to populate our platform with several solutions that cover the whole development life cycle, both for the pharma, for new molecules and drugs, going from the discovery to the non-clinical trials phases, to the clinical trials, up to the new drug brought to the market. And similarly for the medical devices, we are able to offer, together with our scientific partners, solution from the very early phases of the design concept of the new medical device, the definition of a digital twin, a virtual prototyping, up to the so-called virtual prototyping. So the virtual testing, iterative improvement, worst-case assessment of various new features of a new medical device, the possibility to replicate bench testing, the setup of patient-specific testing involving the anatomy of the patient, and also full in silico trials, up to the then obtaining and reporting the full computational results in line with what are the expectancy of the regulatory body. And since the science is is a very important pillar of our activity, we pay great attention also in the collaboration in research activities with our scientific partners. So at the moment we are involved in 5 European level research projects. The first one in Silico World, led by University of Bologna, which is whose goal is to very important high goal to lowering the barriers in order to similarly to democratize the use and adoption of in silico trials with 11 different computational models, which spans from orthopedic to cardiovascular to infective therapeutic areas. Another European project where we are involved, SimCardoTest, that focusing on simulation of cardiac devices and drug for the testing and certification of new products. Another one, Brain Teaser, where the scientific partners are developing artificial intelligence-based solutions for the monitoring and prediction of progression of disease for ALS and multiple sclerosis disease. This for all, obviously, all you know, most of you know, for the development of multi-scale holistic framework for simulation for intervertebral disc generation. The Metastar project is not started yet. It will start in this summer, led by University of Bologna for the use of finite element simulation, mechanicistic simulation, and artificial intelligence for stratification of patients affected by vertebral metastasis. And finally, the last project, Transis, where we are part into this training network for the whose goal is the personalized medicine for translational research and system medicine. What is our role in this project? Our main role is we cover the role of exploitation manager. So together with our partners, our approach is to have a periodic tracking of all the project results of and the progress. So for all the computational solutions which are developed within each project, we periodically track the technology's readiness level and also what is the expected context of use, how the new computational solutions could be used by potential end user. Also, we keep track, very important, of the intellectual property rights, and again, very important, the verification and validation status of all the various solutions. And together with the scientific partners, we analyze the potential business opportunities. We define together with them the intellectual property rights strategy, so they would allow to define a viable business model, the drafting of a business canvas, and so we end up to the drafting of the exploitation plan, so to define what would be expected end user, which are the competitors, if any, already on the market, and the envisioned market where to bring the new solutions. And so then, obviously, commercial agreements need to be signed between us and the scientific partners and with the tech transfer offices, which are part of the research center of the partner university. And eventually, it brings to the exploitation, commercialization of these new commercial computational solutions on our InSilicoTrials cloud marketplace. The main goal of our activity, also our investment in this project, is to provide a clear commercial trajectory, clear explanation of the exploitation trajectory to the scientific partners and also to all involved stakeholders to be convinced and then to decide to be part of these new innovative approaches, so about the integration of their computational solutions into our platform. Because you could see us, sometimes we mention, we refer to InSilicoTrials as the Spotify of the simulation in healthcare, or the Netflix of simulation in healthcare. You probably know how at the beginning, the creation of Spotify or Netflix or other streaming platform has not been easy, since the owners of rights, music rights or movies rights, were a bit suspicious about providing the access to their products, to their right to be used then as not to be bought as a product, but to be used as a service with the streaming. And so we try to convince them and to be part of this adventure to move to the next level, next steps for the democratization of computational results and computational solution for healthcare. So this closed the first pillar, science. The second one, obviously very important, is regulatory. So in the recent year, there has been a big push toward innovation in clinical trials, both at the US, by the US regulatory bodies and the European regulatory bodies. So, for example, at FDA, the modeling simulation has a very big role as a regulatory science priority, and it's foreseen that the use of computational solution and virtual patient will have a big role in the future. And in parallel, very recently, the European Parliament has voted a resolution that aims to the reduction and replacement of animal testing when to be used for research, regulatory testing, and education. And as you can imagine, if we want to refine, reduce, and replace animal testing or in clinical testing, we need an alternatives. And so we, from the beginning, InSilicoTrials followed this regulatory tailwind. From the beginning, we have created also a network of engagement, partnership with regulatory entities. We have started from the beginning the 5-year research collaboration agreement with the American FDA about the use and setup of a platform, of a web-based tool for running simulation to test the MRI compatibility of passive metal device. Our CEO is member of the consultative working group of cloud security of the European Medicine Agency. Also, we were involved in the review of the Microsoft Azure good practices for the guidelines for the use of the cloud infrastructure for healthcare activities. And also, as was mentioned by Mark before, we are co-leaders in the task force of the Avicen Alliance for the drafting and creation of good simulation practices that involved also a review participation by the American FDA regulator. And from the beginning, as I said, we always followed all the latest changes, updates in the regulatory. A big impact at the new European Union medical device regulation that entered into action in May 2021, that for the first time for the European Union had foreseen the use of modeling and simulation and computational solution for the development and approval process of new medical devices. There was quite a big change for the regulatory landscape in Europe. In parallel, in US, as I mentioned, in the last 10 years, the modeling and simulation is having a very important and increasing role. Very important, at the end of 2016, the FDA released a guideline to indicate how computational results should be reported to the American regulatory body in order to proceed for the evaluation. And so providing these guidelines to put, let's say, order into the and streamlining in the process. Very important then the release in 2018 of the BMB verification validation 40 standard that Mark Horner presented before and for which is a vice chair. So also here, definition of a structural framework of how all the computational solution for a medical device should be structured, verified, and validated in order to streamline all the process of the assessment of credibility, verification, validation. And very recently, also end of last year, FDA released a draft guidance for the same topic, the assessment of credibility and of the modeling and simulation for medical device submission, draft guidance to which we also provided our feedback for to be taken into consideration toward the final version of this guidance. And very similarly, we follow for the pharmaceutical area, we follow all the newest guidance and participation to draft guidance of the new regulatory requirements provided by the regulatory, in order to be always updated online and be sure to offer to our customers solutions which are in line with what regulatory expect. Because obviously, as you can imagine, the market and industry have to use solutions which are at least recognized and then accepted by the regulatory bodies. Also very important, and last year a big change in the regulatory landscape in America, in US for drugs, was the release and signing of the so-called FDA Modernization Act 2.0. So this was an update of the Regulation Act for the FDA. The previous version was coming from the 1938, so a completely different word. And this act, this is authorized the possibility to use alternative methods to animal testing. So the animal testing are not obligatory anymore if valid alternative methods are used. And one of these alternative methods which is taken into account is computer models. So this was done to modernize and streamline and make more efficient of the regulatory process for the development of new drugs. And you can imagine the big impact that is having and will have in the coming years of all the drug and research development research process for the creation of new drugs. And this will represent also a boost in the market for also the acceptance and the interest of the companies, the industry, in using more and more the computational solutions. Finally, for the regulatory aspects, so we are part of the Good Simulation Task Force InSilicoTrials, together with the University of Bologna, being the co-chairs of this Good Simulation Practice Task Force at the Avicena Alliance. As mentioned, the final review has been completed a couple of weeks ago. This is a result of a huge effort of more than 100 experts from all over the world. They were involved in this consensus process to define and obtain the final results. Is a book. In the beginning, the idea was to start with a position paper, but then it ended up in a book that will be very soon released and open access by the NATO Springer. And we see these as first milestones toward then the creation by the regulators of a standard for the creation and definition of good simulation practices. And in fact, also the American regulator sees the good simulation practices as, well, the lacking at the moment of good simulation practices, one of the limiting factors for the broader use of in silico trials and modeling and simulation solutions, and that the definition and establishment of such practice will allow for the streamlining of the process and bring harmonization and optimization of all the process of including computational solutions into the research and development process for new drugs and medical devices. Last pillar, technology. So we have from the beginning many collaboration, network of collaboration with the science, with the research center, university, also with the regulators, and everything is then brought together on our platform. So we have built from the beginning this platform with 4 topics in mind. Security, we have to offer to the companies, to the industry, a platform which is secure and then can protect all the information, data, IP of a customer, of a user, of an industry, to protect them. So we have to provide this. Also the possibility on the platform to have access to various different computational methods, computational solutions that can be used, in particular solutions which have been verified, validated, and can be considered credible by the regulatory bodies, and with the results are reported following the guidelines and requirements of the various regulatory bodies. To be compliant with standards, obviously all the standard guidelines for the protection, privacy of the healthcare data is that we take into account from the beginning, and also the use of a platform being an orchestrator that allows the user then to share the results of a simulation campaign with other colleagues of other groups within the company the possibility to create workflow, integrate simulation models, and also to make all this process transparent to the user. So without any expertise of numerical methods, expertise of software testing, developing, this has to be maintained transparent and just allow the final end user to launch, access these solutions. And so one single platform which different feature, first of all, the easy to use interface, the possibility to access digital twin, virtual patient to test new devices or new drug, the possibility to combine the data coming from various computational solutions, being again compliant with the regulatory guidance and requests. And also now we are working a lot on the so-called topics of federated modeling and federated learning. So the possibility to run simulation or run algorithms without having to move data from different on-premise on server bases in order to satisfy also all the requirements of privacy and protection of data required by the various regulators. And we are able to offer various solutions on various a big range of therapeutic areas, including but not only on cardiovascular, orthopedics, oncology areas, central nervous system, up to infectious disease. Now, to give a very fast example of the last solution that we have brought on our online platform. This is an example. So we have integrated on the tool several force test. This is a mechanic finite element simulation to assess some force mechanic characteristics of the self-expandable heart-valve prosthesis. In this case, the models reproduce an ISO standard. Here you can see on the website the possibility that the user has to access the final results and obtain a PDF report following the requirements and guidelines of the regulatory. And here you can see through the user interface, there is no direct access to the model, no direct access to the code. So the model, the IP of the scientific partner is protected. There is no need to insert input codes. It's a very easy to use interface for the end user which has not expertise in numerical methods. Now a completely different application, but still we are in the world of healthcare. So for the drug manufacturing, this new tool that was released a couple of months ago is called SimTablet Coder, which is the result of collaboration with the RCP Research Center in Austria and integrates their software XPS. So the reproduction of the so-called tablet coating manufacturing process for the creation of new tablets. This is a model and simulation solution that required GPUs to run. These are simulations that can take also 3-4 days. Actually, these are resources which are not readily available to all the expected end user. So with our simulation as a service approach on our cloud-based platform, the user can insert the input through the web interface, launch the simulation, and obtain the results in order to speed up the design and development aspect of their research activities. And now, finally, to conclude some success cases. So I've shown you how the merging and leveraging the science, technology, and regulatory allows to have this unique cloud-based platform, but how the user, the clients, the industry is using the platform. So here we start from an example. We have the so-called drug safety suite. These are 3 different computational solutions to assess the risk of drug-induced proarrhythmic risk. So to assess the risk that the new molecule, new drug could have effect on the cardiac safety. So the 3 tools, QT-TDB risk screen for the screening of, again, clinical risk, stripes which reproduce in vitro testing on pluripotent stem cells, and finally the SIPA InSilico. Again, this is a solution for the in silico evaluation of a proarrhythmia risk. These 3 computational solutions are integrated into our platform with our orchestrator to offer a streamlined activity. And these are the results how one of our drug company customer use this to have an early in silico assessment of the potential probability risk of their new drugs. So they were able, through only simulation, to classify the compound as clinically safe or not safe, following the recognized credible meds classification. Also to derive the drug-specific safety market, again, following FDA standards or standards and guidelines accepted, recognized by the regulators. And finally, with the last simulation to estimate the safety biomarkers on a virtual population of pluripotent stems. And so all these, the obtaining of these results took minutes or hours, comparing to weeks that would have required and the setting of in vitro testing and setting up of such activities. Another example of successful use of our solutions. So MS Treat Sim is an online solution that integrates agent-based model developed by the University of Catania for the simulation of in silico trials for the relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis patients. So all the user interface allows to set up the characteristic of the population that wants to be reproduced in silico trials, designing the patient population, which treatment and which control are going to be applied to the virtual populations, and then launch simulation, obtain the results, assess the so-called disease activity prediction, and then use these results to have the prediction of a population level trial outcome. And so to see the effect of the virtual treatment on the reduction in the relapse rate. This solution was used by one of our customer, a pharma company that had already a multiple sclerosis drug on the market, and they used the in silico clinical trial to support a so-called label extension. So they had considered to request a label extension for this drug, but they were wondering if modeling simulation would have been able to provide evidence that this off-label administration delays would have not effect on the safety parameter. So the in silico clinical trial was conducted using this agent-based model that reproduced the immune system and the effect of the multiple sclerosis pathologies. And the simulation confirmed the efficacy and the safety of label administration that was also seen in off-label use of this drug. And so these computational results were included by the sponsor as in silico evidence into the dossier sent to the regulatory requesting the label extension. And also now their aim is also to publish the analysis results in a peer-reviewed journal in order also to share the experience with the rest of the industry. Now, another success case, we now change a bit the application. Now we move to drug-device combination. So in these cases, we supported a pharma company to design so-called population pharmacokinetic analysis of the use and the effect of a drug in rabbits. And these simulations were used to select the specific drug, the specific definition of the drug, choosing one of 4 different simulations. And so this obviously reduced the time needed that would have required to perform this testing on real rabbits, on real animal testing. And after that also the simulation also was used to reproduce the way in which the device would have performed the administration of this new compound through the nasal cavity. So computational fluid dynamics was used to then bring a recommendation to the optimization recommendation of the features of the device for the optimization of the deposition of drug particles in the nasal cavity. So to conclude, as many of you, as all of us, know modeling, simulation, artificial intelligence are disruptive technologies for healthcare. We read it every day on the newspaper, on the internet, but there are very important challenging problems in terms of access and cost to these solutions, in particular for medium or small enterprises. InSilicoTrials offer a unique solution that offer to the end user an easy-to-use integrated cloud-based platform, so that does not require a specific expertise, numerical expertise, the owning of specific resources in terms of software licenses or hardware resources. Everything is run on the cloud as a simulation as a service. Also, the InSilicoTrials platform integrates state-of-the-art computation solutions, which comes from the years of development, testing, verification, and validation of our scientific partners. And we provide the simulation service in line with the recognized standards and regulatory guidelines, so that the in-silico evidence may be then used during the regulatory pathway. And so our platform leverage, as mentioned before, the simulation as a service capabilities in order to accelerate the innovation and revolutionize healthcare. So also the message for today is to invite additional scientific partners, additional technology stakeholders to participate to our platform to bring the revolution, the computational revolution to healthcare. Also, I would like to acknowledge the role and the effort brought to the creation of the InSilico platform to all the members of our team, the team that is continuously growing, and we hope to continue like this in the future. And I thank you for your attention, and now I open for your questions.
Thank you for the nice, clear, and interesting presentation. And now it's open time for questions.
Hi, thank you very much for the presentation. I would like to know a bit more on the concept that you mentioned of federated modeling. So the idea is, because in federated machine learning, the idea is just, okay, you run the networks for whatever data processing task in the hospital itself, and then you extract the parameters of the network or in an anonymized way, and you fuse this information from different centers. In theory, it will be more, it will generalize better, etc. But how do you translate this to models? I'm really interested on this concept. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question. So when we talk about federated modeling, you have to imagine that, for example, for medical device, it is interesting to simulate the combination of a new device with the anatomy of virtual patients, of virtual population. So the need to have access to the segmentation of cardiac anatomies, musculoskeletal models, reconstruction of bones, muscles. And similarly to data, it's not always possible to export and have these processed data go outside the on-premise server, the on-premise resources of a research center, of a hospital. So what we are working on is the possibility to, similarly to the federated learning, to in some way send the model and inject the model into the on-premise server infrastructure where the virtual patients, various virtual patients are located. You can imagine different hundreds of virtual patients located in different hospitals and different research centers, and then running the simulation in local before then bringing the results of the CFD or finite element simulations into the central platform to put together all the results and then to run all the evaluation of the results, post-processing or statistical analysis and comparison of the assessment of safety and performance of the new device on the different groups of virtual populations. I hope this answered your question.
Well, to be honest, not really. I haven't understood a lot the concept, but we'll talk it on offline, or I'll ask Alessia. But I think it's an interesting concept, but I don't fully grasp it. But it's okay.
More questions? Okay, maybe I have. I would like to have a bit of insight in when you were talking about the drug development. You have talked about using computational models to avoid using animal testing in preclinical trials, and you have showed some examples. But we have seen that going to the clinical trials, it's not that straightforward because of the regulations of the agencies. And in your pipeline, you are showing that you are using InSilicoTrials for the clinical testing. And I was wondering if you could give more insights on that.
Could you be more clear about which aspect are you more interested?
When you are using the drug development pipeline for the regulatory agencies, that you have the preclinical phase and the clinical phase.
Yeah.
So we have seen cases in which you are using InSilicoTrials in the preclinical phase, but I was wondering how you integrate InSilicoTrials in the clinical phase.
Okay. Yeah. So the solutions can be used for the running the in silico trials could be used in various ways. The first one is to obtain the results of the simulation for the optimization of the design of the protocol of the clinical trial, or what will be the specific target population to be used on the during the clinical trial. Or another aspect is to run the in silico trials in parallel with the clinical trials, the so-called augmented clinical trials, so to have additional in silico evidence that will not be possible to have to estimate or to extract by the real patient populations, to strengthen, to enforce the conclusions of the results of the traditional clinical studies run on the patients. These are two aspects, because so the aim of the silico trials, of the use of computational solutions, is the one to define, reduce, and then replace in vivo testing, animal testing, and clinical testing, so testing on the patients. This is a long process. There are some solutions at the moment can completely replicate bench testing, or can completely replicate in vitro testing. We have not reached yet the step to completely replace animal testing or patient testing, but we are on the pathway to reach that step.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your talk. I have a curiosity about your sclerosis study. In this study, which variables of the immune system do you look into, if you know, because I don't know if you have done it, to define relapse, and how do you define, which variables do you take into account in your agent-based model, if you know? Thank you.
Yeah, so I will start saying, so I don't know all the details of these the model that is of the computational solutions that is integrated into the multiple sclerosis threat sim solution. So basically, we leverage the it's an agent-based modeling framework called Universal Immune System Simulator. It was developed by the University of Catania by Professor Pappalardo, which is also one of our partners in the InSilico World project. And this immune system universal simulator has been declined to also have various, let's say, pathology layers. One of the applications that is used in this simulation is the multiple sclerosis. Other pathology layers are for the tuberculosis. In the InSilico World project, the group of Catania is also working on the creation of pathology layers for the use of this universal immune system simulator for the to reproduce the pathology of influenza or the COVID-19 or mammar carcinoma. Again, unfortunately, I'm not able to provide a complete list of details, but all the if you are more interested in having more details, you can write to me, or having access to our website, you can find all the information about the literature, papers, and the models which is leveraged on our tool. Thank you again for the invitation.